Hello everyone, this is Charlie Barley. It's been a while. I'm back here with another video. This video is going to be part one of a training slash roundtable discussion. The reason I'm doing this part one alone is because there are some things that I want to personally put out there that's going to help develop you and give you not just those who are part of the mentorship program, but those who are even not a part of the program. These principles can be applied to your game. It's just that with the mentorship program, I deliver a little bit more in terms of the math, but principles, everyone could definitely stand to hear this. So I have a roundtable discussion with four of my mentees that's going to be coming in another video, and they too are going to tell you about when you start to make these transitions in the way you think about the game, the way you approach the game, and the way you play the game. You have to change the way you see it, change the way you understand it. And I have four students. We're going to be doing a roundtable discussion. We're not talking about the money, because the money comes through knowledge. Money comes when you understand things, when you've taken the time to reason and to logically and thoroughly understand it. All right, because oftentimes what happens is that we lose all type of mental faculty when it comes to the game of roulette. The game of roulette is just like any other game. It's a game. It has to be played as a game. You know, there's an offense, there is a defense. You're the offense. The casino's the defense. You don't know the next play the same way in a game. You don't know the opposition's next move. Sometimes in a game, you get hit. Just like in the casino, you get hit. But the reason why people who play the games great is because they practice the game. In this game, there are limited variables. The reason we know it's limited because you could see the limitation right here. Okay, it's not 1,000 reds. It's one of the reasons why red doesn't repeat 1,000 times. There's only 18 of them. The maximum time it's ever repeated was 26. So then lies an anomaly. That means that the game has limitations. When you understand how time and money works, then you can start to equate that to the limitation of the game in form of variables. Now, I've already had a person say, well, Chauncey, you know what? Most people don't get what you're talking about when you're talking about variables and risk and different things like that. They just want to learn, get the money, and leave. It's not that simple. It's really not that simple. There's only a small fraction of people who become rich in this world. And those are not the people who don't know anything. These people actually have knowledge, and they apply the knowledge to whatever it is that they're doing to produce the profits for their business or their life. It's no different in their game than it is in our game. And our game is in the game of roulette. I tend to think that our game of making money is a lot better than any other game because we don't have biases. We don't have succinct biases, I would say it that way. All right. So the way that we delineate those biases, we do that in time. But the roundtable discussion, I want to talk about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things really, really quickly that my students and as well as people outside of the program could very well use and understand about permutations and things of that sort. So I'm going to start with one. And again, part 2 is going to be coming with the panel, and we're going to re-talk about the things that I'm talking about now. Number 1, using multiple strategies. People have the bundle package. You probably got your own strategies or something like that. What's good about my particular strategies is that they are all permutation based. They're based around variables and anomalies. The issue that a lot of people have with using multiple strategies is they don't understand the variables of those strategies, meaning they don't know the frequency of how often a certain variable or permutation happens within it. What I mean is, how often does red, red, black repeat? How often does it show up? Okay? So that might be, for example, your strategy. Well, if you have other strategies, number one, do you have bankroll to support playing with multiple strategies? Do you know the extent of the strategy that you're playing? Meaning, you know that in 6 progressions playing this strategy, you've reached a 99% advantage over time, or a short period of time, or in a case point, meaning in a set of spins. So if it took 6 spins to produce a certain anomaly, you know this anomaly has a 90% chance of being produced, or 99, whatever the percent is. Do you know these things? Because if you do not, you're gambling. 2, if you don't have proper bankroll. But let me say about the multiple strategies. You can always play multiple strategies when you have proper bankroll and you know what it is that you're doing. But don't dib and dab in other strategies until you've studied them and you understand the variables of them. Any strategy that you use, you should have an underlying litmus understanding of the variables, the frequency, and how often things are repeating within it. If you do not know that, you're gambling. You're taking a chance. And in our world, we only have the best chances. We only have the best chances. But you have to play it smartly. You've got to be smart about playing it. If you think and play like a gambler, you're going to have gambler results. I don't care how good the strategy is. It's you that needs to, because see, I often threw a question out there that said, if you could win $1 million, did you beat the game of roulette? If you made one spin, you won $1 million, did you beat the game? Some people said no. And I'm like, well, how much money do you need to be able to say that you're satisfied? It's not about beating anything. It's about being satisfied. It's about paying your bills and spending time with doing the things that you want to do. But we're confusing life with gambling. And it's only been sold to us because we go to these Vegas to give you drinks, the music. You think they always say it's a good time. No, it's money time. You guys are taking our money. It's not a good time. It's time to go to work. All right? Anyway, so multiple strategies are good when you have thorough understanding of them and you have enough bankroll to support it. Number 2, bankroll management and time, managing losses. Generally, if you have a business and you didn't get customers for 2 or 3 days, you're going to lose money for 2 or 3 days. That's just how it is. But you don't get into business because you miss 2 or 3 days of not having customers. You have what they call a bankroll to support being in business when it's not always popping for you, when it's not always working, when there's not always someone buying from you. These are basic principles. These principles have to be applied to the game of roulette because the game of roulette is just like the game of any business. There's money being exchanged. In the game of roulette, there's money being exchanged. We're just calling it a game. In business, there's money being exchanged. We just call it business. It's both business. There's variables that create the way that we get money from the game, the same way it does in business. But in a business, the reason you don't shut your doors when after 2 or 3 days that customers didn't patronize you is because you understand the variables of your business. And because you know that it may not happen for 2 or 3 days, you're going to have to be in business for the rest of the year. So you have a line of credit. Before you even start business, you go through counseling sometimes. the Small Business Association, they would ensure that you have enough capital to sustain when your business is not being patronized. The good news about Roulette is that our business is the numbers, the output. Okay? When you understand the variables, there are times, like any game, like any business, where you will not be making profit. In a business world, you're losing money because you're paying overhead. In our world, we're losing money because we lost the bet. In a business world, they lost the bet because they thought customers were coming in today, so they overpaid for inventory and for employees. That's how they lose. This is how we lose. We'll put $5 here. We'll do it based upon whatever assumption we have, if it works here, and we win or we lose. I have to reset it, sorry. But you get my point. So that's how in our world money is exchanged. But there are points in time where you don't always win. A business doesn't always get customers. They're not always soaring profits. There's a stock market. It goes up and then it goes down. Even when it's on a consistent path upward, there are moments where it strikes down even while it's consistently going up. But you have to be prepared for when it does go down. Nothing ever stays the same. So don't approach this game no differently than you would approach your job. It's the same thing. You're exchanging your time for the money that you're getting with your job. Have you calculated the risk and the liability of that? Most people don't. And they retire because they've been sold the idea that you work and you die. The same way many of you have been sold the concept of gambling, playing roulette. This is a money financial instrument. It's just called a game. There are variables that create the output. The same way in business. In this world, we have limited variables that we can control in time. In a business sector, no matter what it is, at the end of the day, you cannot calculate every variable that will create a level of risk that ultimately could destroy your business. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but for the most part, it's almost impossible. Which is why most businesses fail. The ones that succeed have a what? Huge bankroll. Because of failure. Because of miscalculation. We have the same things happening in roulette. The difference is that the variables are much smaller. And we can unthaw those issues that we have with these variables in time. The variables, what I'm talking about, are permutations. If you don't understand what I mean by permutations and variables, you're going to have to go back and look at other videos. Okay, I might even do a video talking about what variables are and what permutations. Basically, a variable is whatever the output is. So if the output of a game is, let's just show you. This is what I mean when I say variable. So 36, 36, 5. These are all variables. So variables was 36, 36, 5. That's a set. Red, red, red. That's a set. However you're looking at the game. High, high, low. That's a set. Even, even, odd. That's a set. These are all variables. How you look at the variables, the way they frequently arise and how often they repeat is what we call permutations. Permutationspro.com is the derivative of all of that. All right. So bankroll management is really important because it behaves just like a business. Like I was saying, you have to manage your losses just like a business would, but you have to study and know the variables to understand that. When the proper way, the way I would go about bankroll management is always look at it from a perspective of market exposure. The longer you're in the market, the more money you should have to be able to afford to be there. If you have a business, if you open up at 8 o'clock and you close at 5 p.m., you're going to have to pay the money to be open. But if you're only open from 8 o'clock to 9 a.m., 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., you're not going to pay as much money as you would as if you were open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Why? Because you have more market exposure. You have more exposure for more customers, which is more risk and liability, even though there's a higher chance for profit. The longer you're in the market, the more exposure you have, the more risk and liability that there is. These are fundamental business principles, I know. But if you apply this to roulette, it will change your life. So serious. All right? So bankroll management is all about your exposure. If you're not exposed too long, you don't have to have as much. If you're planning on playing long time, you need more money. Just like any roulette is just called a game, folks. It's all business. It's the same thing you would do in any business, any stock or anything like that. It's just a game. We're just doing it through this. This is just only a means. So change the way you're looking at this. All right? We talked about dealing with variables. The variables, well, I mentioned my variables. I think I talked about that earlier. Why do we practice? Here is number 4. Why do we practice? So number 1, using multiple strategies. We talked about that. Number 2, we talked about bankroll management and time. Oh, speaking of time and bankroll management, like I said, the more time you're there, the more you need, less time, less, obviously, blah, 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 blah. You guys got that. We talked about variables. Number 4, why do we practice? It's a game. And the reason why you practice is because you need to understand the variables, the output, what makes things lose. Why are you losing? Why are you winning? Any singular strategy can win, but how consistent can it be? The more consistent it is based upon your knowledge of the variables within that structure or that system. And it only comes through practice and study. Okay? And you don't study from a perspective of winning, you study from a perspective of losing. Okay, so I'm not studying to see how much I'm winning. I know that I could win, but I need to see how frequent am I losing and wherein can I lose a bankroll and how quickly can I regain it using a singular or multiple strategy system. And how does that affect the time that I'm playing? How much market exposure do I have? And do I have enough bankroll to support it? Because if I'm not treating it like a business, I am what? A gambler. And I should expect any result any other gambler should expect when they're gambling. Okay? Number 4, it's a marathon, not a sprint. The reason you cannot treat roulette like a sprint is unless you're just gambling. And if you're gambling, just having fun, that's different. But the reason why you should treat it more on a marathon side is because you truly can retire doing this. I am now up to 12 people of my 19. And right now, I have one person who is legally retired. And he does nothing but do this and make money. And the reason that I know is because contractually, he pays 30% to me from his earnings. Now, how he pays that is not through his money. He just pays it in time. So it takes about an hour to produce whatever he wants. 30% more of that might be about 15 minutes, so he spends an extra 15 minutes of time, and that's how I'm paid, not out of money. You see how that works? But my whole point is that the reason I know he's retired is because he pays. But not only that, but he's been an upstanding and honest guy ever since we've met. Okay, he was one of my first interviews. That was Don Fuller. That he used to work at the oil industry or something like that. So nonetheless, he will tell you, and when he does, we have a roundtable discussion. Him, I call him Mac if he does it. A couple other people, Kirk Woken. Who else may be coming? I have a few people coming. We may be doing more than 4. So it's a few people who may be at the roundtable discussion, but nonetheless, we're going to be talking about practice. Allen Iverson, practice. We're talking about practice. Yes, we're talking about practice because it does make perfect, but we practice so that we can get a chance to see the limitations of the game within the structure of the system that we're using to make money. Hopefully that makes sense. It was kind of a mouthful. So, the questions often that my students give me, and even questions that I get from the market. By the way, I'm glad to make this video. I've been getting a lot of emails about what happened to me. I haven't dropped off, so here I am. But the questions often that I get are a result of people who don't practice. Because I know if you practice this enough, the questions that I will get, they leave because you see it. It's really, when I say you see it, it's so in front of your face that you can't not see it. The only thing that I do in a program that I do is show you how to see more of it, or show you a better way to see it and how to better calculate it. And then we start talking about how to use the marathon approach to grow our money. Never be a loser, but always be on a high statistical advantage side. Always play where you have a 90+% chance. Always know that. But you know that no matter where you fall in a permutative cycle. You know, when people jump on the game, they say, oh, I just lost. As soon as I jumped on, I lost 5 straight, 3 straight, or 2, whatever it is. And the only reason that happens is because the game is going when you're not there. So you can't just assume that because you got there, the game just started. But at the same time, the good news is that if you lose to whatever your strategy is right up front, it probably was a high statistical bet against you. But because any other time, you're probably going to be winning anyway. Okay? Anyway, so practice. I can't say practice. I could say there's only other one word starts with a P that I think is better than practice, and that's patience. The more patience you have, the more money you actually can make. You can make more being more patient. Most people just don't have patience. But if you have patience and you practice, there's no reason why I'm doing my best. I'm going to retire 19 people. I already got one, and I've got these people who are going to be doing the roundtable discussion. They're on the road, and hopefully in another month or so, they're going to be talking about ending and starting this as a full-time career themselves. Last one I want to talk about: count to zero. Some of my students are getting conked out because they don't count to zero. The zero is important to have in your artillery when you're making progressions. Progressions are used to save time. Have you know that, okay? The reason why you save time is because depending on your strategy, you may need to save time. So some strategies don't require you to save as much time, so you don't necessarily have to do progressions. Or the progressions that you do may not necessarily have a large payback. Certain progressions you have to pay back 5 times or 3 times. But then, in payback, this time to pay it back is not as bad, but just depends on the strategy. But my point here is that covering the zero really works well when you are playing on the outside. So if you're playing anything in the dozens or here or, in the columns, that's when you cover the zero, because the only thing that can stop your strategy is the house side. But if you're playing on the inside like this here, or whatever your strategy is from this perspective, then so as long as you've calculated, then you understand, like for example, I have a numbers game. My numbers game is a derivative of what I know on the outside. I've just did it kind of on the inside. I don't cover the zero. And there's a reason why, because the zero is a factor into my equation in the numbers game. All right. But that's all I wanted to say. I just wanted to bring these highlighted points to some of my students and to those who are listening, who are not necessarily a student, but you might have bought. I trust me, guys, I get a lot of emails. So what I'm going to start doing is some of these videos because I am spending a lot of time on the phone and in emails, and I got to pay for my bills. All right, so it means I got to go to work. All right, so with that said, guys, permutationspro.com if you're interested in strategies. The mentorship program, you can email me at permutationspro@gmail.com. The cost is $3,000 up front, folks, and it's 30% on the monthly. Can I work with you? Yes. The cost is it guaranteed? Yes, it's 100% guaranteed. When you finally get this, it's 100% guaranteed because mathematically you can't refute it. The only thing, and the more patience you have, good God, you can make a lot of money. One of my newest students, he's up to maybe 16 wins straight, doing what I've showed him to do, and I've already had one guy retire. So, and then the other students are doing well. Some of them, life happens to all of us. So anyway, so that's the mentorship program. Trust me, guys, the $3,000 pales in comparison to the information you get, and the type of details that I give you and the time that I give you. Because it is a transition and it really is a education. The only reason I even charge as little that I do is because I'm more interested in the 30%. And the 30% is all about the time. So when you learn how to do this, you'll see how in time you don't pay because the casino pays you. So you just use your time. And you just, pay me back in time. So whatever time it took you to make whatever you make, you just give me 30%. And then you play the bankroll with it. And we go through all of these things in a very succinct manner together. And all those things, you know what I'm saying? So, but, the crew is doing well. The program's doing well. I don't think it's for everyone. If you're not a person who wants to study and really focus and really think and grow rich, this is not for you. I swear to God, it's not even worth you paying me $10,000. It's not even worth it, and I mean that from my heart. But if you are the type of person, you're a pretty sharp person, and you understand numbers, you understand how money works. How money is exchanged. If you get that the game and business and, you having a job is just the lowest point of risk. That's the only reason you got a job. You're just playing the lowest odds. That's just all that is. And the exchange is your life. And it's actually, when you think about it, is really dreadful that you actually exchange your entire life for the lowest odds. You actually could do this and have better odds and have a better. I'm a living witness to this. You can have a better life, better odds, and you never have to go to work. But when you don't understand the game that you're playing, you're going to continue to play the game the way that you're playing it. And most of us are losing at it, and most of us are broke, busted, disgusted. You got to eat right. You got to think right. You got to treat your neighbor right. You got to treat yourself right. You got to love yourself. You got to do the right things, right? I mean, it's just bigger than making money. It's really a mind game. It's really a mental shift. It's how you see yourself, how you see the world. Exchanging what they've taught us to give them. We're just using this apparatus to make profit with. The cool thing about it is that the casinos have to pay. They actually have to pay. The only difference is that we're on the calculated part of the payout, and we're not on the part of the part where they're making money. Most people are losing money. So we're not on that ship because we calculate it. And the variables are really, really succinct right there in your face. So with that said, if you're interested, I do have 6 more spaces left. If you're interested in that, and then after that, I will officially be retired off the internet. And then onward I go and on to the next journey. And but I could tell you this, so far, this has been one of the best experiences, and I ain't gonna say one of. This has been the best experience in my life. I can't even tell you what it's made of me. It's changed me in so many different ways that I never thought I would even arrive to a place like this or even think this way. But I'm so glad that I did. I'm so glad that I didn't give up on it. But at the same time, I always felt like there was something always kind of pulling me toward it. So because of that reason, I never did give up. But with that said, guys, not going to get all mushy on it. Thank you, guys. It's May 1st. Let's have a great rest of the month and the rest of the year. And yeah, permutationspro.com. You can call me at the 800 number. I'm generally available. If not, please leave a message and leave me your email address. That way I can email you all the same. Till the next time, take care of yourself. Take care of each other. And let me turn this thing off. Take care.